Lance and Steven in the morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We are live.
We are live with a guest.
Yeah, very special guest.
Fresh from her morning run.
The funny thing is that because we're on Zoom, nobody can smell me because I haven't had my shower yet. So, you know.
The perks.
The way it should be.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about hygiene nearly as much in a
No, nobody sees me anymore.
Well, dear viewers, for those of you joining us, we have Ashley Parlee here with us today for a very special edition of Lance and Steven in the morning.
And our wormy friends.
Lance and Steven in the morning, Wormin edition.
Worm edition.
That's right.
For those who are not familiar with Ashley, Ashley is one of our deacons here at the church. She's one of our board members, and a long time attender. How long have you been in CFA, Ashley?
Well, Zach's almost 12, so just about 12 years.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
It's an easy way to keep track when you come when you're like 9 months pregnant, and just makes it easy to remember.
Yeah, I get that. It ties in well with my marriage anniversary. So
yes,
however long I've been here is how long I've been married. So.
Oh, you got married and moved here? Was that how that worked?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she dropped.
She dropped out. Doesn't want to show us her worms.
She's probably having an internet thing. She'll be back.
Yeah, there she is. Welcome back, Ashley.
I clicked a button and you went, goodbye. I feel like my 6-year-old in a Zoom meeting.
That's fantastic.
Why is this not working?
She'd probably be able to do it better than I do.
Yeah, so Lance, you said your anniversary coming to CFA. You got married and then moved here? Was that?
Yeah, we got married August 31st. We went on our honeymoon for a week in southern Alberta, and then we drove all the way up to Grand Prairie. And have been here since.
I can attest. Nate and I finished college end of August, or end of April. We got married 2 weeks later, went on our honeymoon, and 2 weeks after that, we started in Red Deer for our.
There you go. It's nice to bundle all those big life changes into one moment.
Because that's not stressful at all.
It's not.
No, but you get all over with.
That's been ours. It's like, well, let's just do 3 things at once, because then you just get it done with.
Yeah.
Prolong the stress. Just compound it.
Yeah. And then the next one was we bought our house while camp was going on, and my son was about to be born within like a month or two. So we like to do that.
I have a friend I went a couple of years ago. She lives in Ontario, and she was 8 months pregnant. They were moving houses, and if you know anything about the real estate market in Ontario, it's ridiculous. So they basically moved out and into a house in the same day. And so they moved out in the morning and moved in like at 5 o'clock at night. So anyway, it was ridiculous. And she was 8 months pregnant, and she was a teacher, and she was doing all of her final exams and final marking for the year, and she was losing. And they had a toddler. So I went and helped her because she needed it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we like to compound everything into, one time period.
That's
so
right.
As you're talking, like that's the stuff of nightmares for me. That is like something I wake up in a cold sweat.
Just one thing at a time for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the idea of compounding stress like that, no. You would have to visit me in the hospital.
Well,
to each their own.
Just do what you have to do. Once you're in the middle of it, you can't get out. So you have to get through it. So that's my opinion anyway.
All right, so we are here to talk about worms with Ashley. So come with your worm-related questions.
Well, so let's preface this for people who didn't see. So we had Ashley on as part of, we just interviewed different people and just talked about, tell us something interesting about yourself that people wouldn't know about. And Ashley talked about worm farming, which was actually, I couldn't even believe that was a thing, and let alone that she was doing worm farming. And so me and Lance got talking. We're like, I want to find out more about this. This is strange and interesting.
Well, I have a friend in Grand Prairie, and Grand Prairie, the city did some kind of, it's called vermicompost is what it's called. And so they did this program. They're like, hey, come get your worms. We'll set you up. And so she did it. She said yes. And then she looked at me and she's like, I can't do it. I can't have worms in my house. Like, they're going to crawl all over. And I can't do it. And I was like, fine, I'll take your worms. I like soil. I like gardening. I like stuff like that. So I've been doing a whole bunch of research on permaculture and regenerative farming. And that's a whole nother topic other than this. But anyway, so I said, okay, I'll take them home. And of course it's dead of winter, right? And I'm like, okay. So I had a little cup of worms, and you were supposed to you didn't have to do much to the soil, but I was reading you had to do a little bit to the soil. So I left them for like a week. They almost died.
Oh no. Bad worm mom.
But they survived. And I was like, well, if you can survive my house, you're going to be okay. So anyway.
Ashley's house is like the Thunderdome for worms.
Anyway, the kids named them Kevin.
They're all Kevin.
They're all Kevin.
Fantastic.
There might have been one named George. I can't remember, but they're basically all Kevin. How's Kevin today, Mom? So they're super easy. Once I figured out a few issues. So first I put too much coffee grounds, because I don't know if you know, but we drink a lot of coffee. So I put too many coffee grounds in there, and the soil got a little acidic, and they didn't really like that. And the way you know that your worms are doing good is there's lots of them.
Oh, okay.
So for a while there was only a few worms. Now we have lots of worms.
Really?
So you just put your scraps in. Any food scraps you have, you just chop them up. The smaller you chop them, the quicker they will get eaten. But you can throw stuff. So I learned a few things not to put in there. Don't put melon in your compost.
Uh-huh.
Because flies love melons. So they will attract fruit flies really fast. Oh, okay. And we had a lot of fruit flies for a while.
Yeah, you had other buggy creatures in your house. You didn't.
More buggy creatures in my house. So I learned not to put melon seeds. I have had some seeds sprout in my compost.
Oh, so, really?
Yeah, because you want to keep it moist.
Mm-hmm.
You want it to stay nice and moist. They like a moist environment. And the other trick, there's also eggshells. I like putting eggshells in my compost because it's really good for the soil. But is you take a piece of newspaper and you just lay the newspaper over top of the soil in your bucket. So I just have a Rubbermaid container. It's a big blue Rubbermaid container. And you wet your, I just throw the paper or the newspaper on top and then just spray them with, my light is glaring on me. I just spray it with water and just keep that damp. There's no fruit flies. I'll be honest, there are a few other little buggies in there. But when things are healthy, they stay under control. And actually your soil is supposed to have bugs in it. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, really?
A healthy soil will actually have lots of bugs and microorganisms and all sorts of stuff.
Oh.
If your soil is dead, your soil's dead.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
And most soil you will buy from a store is actually not living. It's been sterilized.
It's dead. Yeah.
Right.
It's dead. So that's why compost is so great. And this stuff is basically worm poo. I'm going to be honest with you. It's basically worm poop. but oh man, it's so rich and good for your soil. So here's some tidbits about soil. We actually know more about outer space than we do about our own soil.
Really?
Yes. They know more about outer space than the number and the naming of the different microorganisms in soil.
Wow.
Isn't that fascinating?
That is really fascinating.
Yeah. Like we live and work with this stuff every day. And yet
I don't know what it is.
You know so little about it.
So Ashley, do you see the picture I got put up here that you sent me?
Yeah.
What's all this stuff here on the top side of the picture? Is that your newspaper?
That's all the newspaper. So I pulled it away. So I was outside. I was planting some of my herbs. So to harvest, worms don't like light. So what I do is I feed them. I always feed them on one side of the box. So then they're more likely to be on that side of the box because that's where they're going to eat. And so then I can harvest from the other side. So I'm harvesting from the open side right now. And I put them outside in the light because they don't like light, which means they're going to burrow down. And I can just dig out the top layer and then they burrow down farther. And then I dig out the top layer. It's a bit of a slow process. I'm pretty sure that there's better ways to do it, but that's how I do it.
Wow.
So in this crate this size, how many worms exactly do you think are in there right now?
I could not even count. There's probably hundreds.
Really?
Of all different sizes. So let me see. I brought a little bucket. I just scooped it out on my way over here. So I have, let's see. There's little ones.
Oops.
They're about that big.
Oh, wow.
He's covered in dirt. I don't know if I have any big ones in this group. Let me look. But yeah, so I'm not 100% sure actually how they reproduce. I'm going to be honest with you. All I know is that the healthier they are, the more that there are.
Right.
I don't have any big
guys.
But like
how they just appear. You don't see them like cut each other in half or
no.
No.
Here's another one. Let me get my hand up there.
Oh, there's a worm. He's worming around.
So one of the best parts is that because they eat your food scraps, they don't go into the, I got dirt all over my hands. My nose is itchy. They don't go into the landfill. So not only that, you're also building great soil and you can do it all year round. My worms just live on the floor in my kitchen in a corner. I would like to put them under my sink so they're out of the way, but that would require me cleaning out my sink. And I just don't like
So do the kids have much to do with them now? Are they?
They always come and watch them. Like if I've got it open and I'm feeding them or anything like that, but they're not, hey, can we play with the worms today? So these are specifically red wiggler worms. They won't survive. If I put them out in my garden, they will die. They will not survive.
Because of our
red
climate?
wiggler, that's red like wiggler. The actual
brand
worm it is or whatever?
Yeah. That's their breed or whatever they're called.
Okay.
They're the ones that are the most common for vermicompost.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea behind this is basically to create good compostable soil.
Yeah. And to take care of food scraps, right?
Yeah.
So if I had a bigger box or in the summer, I could put them outside into a bigger bin. And we could probably get more worms. The funny story is that actually my great grandpa apparently used to be a worm farmer. And my mom remembers going out with him and picking worms because he'd sell them. So she would go out with him to the worm pile and she'd pick worms with him and he'd sell them. I did not know this when I started my
runs in the family.
Must run in the family.
It's in your blood.
So if anybody wants worms, I know I can hook you up. I've got lots.
Wow, there you go. So in terms of
everyone wants compost worms.
Compost worms.
You know.
We just got a compost bin. That was something we had talked about. Janice just asked the question. It's hilarious.
Does this mean we're kids?
So we just got a compost bin. We talked about signs you're getting old when you get excited about a compost bin.
Right.
So should I add worms to it?
No.
Just let them.
So your composter is black?
Yes, it's those black earth ones. Yeah, those green machines.
If you want to cook your worms, put them in there.
Right, because it'll get real hot.
Well, that's the whole. So those composters are really great. Tip for those: make sure you keep it wet. Mine hardly ever breaks down, and I took a composting course and found out that the reason why mine doesn't ever compost properly is because I don't keep it wet enough. So it actually is designed. I have a black one too in my yard, and it's designed to make it really hot in there, and it breaks down by heating it up.
Right.
And so you probably don't want to put your worms in there because you'll cook them.
You'll cook them.
I can't remember the temperatures that it gets to, but it will kill weed seed. Like it gets hot enough that it'll actually kill a weed seed. So if you put weeds in your compost bin, it'll actually kill it.
So that's why you want to keep it moist, because it keeps that humid.
Yeah, exactly. But it's I don't know. It's interesting to me.
We got a question
I
from
find
Mary
it fascinating.
here.
I find it fascinating.
Mary's asking, do you have to brand the worms, or how do you lasso them?
No, I don't brand them. And
just name them all Kevin.
I just name them all Kevin, and they all come when I call. I'm not sure if I called.
So Ashley, you have you've got a Rubbermaid container there. That's like whatever 10 liter or whatever the size of that thing is.
It's not huge.
How much soil would you expect is in a typical year or whatever you would make in that?
I don't know. I've probably only harvested an ice cream pail out of it.
Right.
But the reality is that the more food you add, the more they turn it into black dirt is basically what you do. Right.
Yeah.
And so the more food you add, as you're harvesting, they just create more of it. So if I was to empty the whole thing, which I don't know how I would, because there's so many worms in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kills.
It's probably about, 3 gallons, maybe 4.
Wow.
So yeah. And like I said, like I've seen, when I was doing some research, people will put them in like an old bathtub and just cover it in plastic, and then you just put a board over it or whatever, and then they throw whole food scraps in there, and the worms just chomp them up, and away she goes. We don't live in a climate where that is necessarily possible.
Right. Yeah.
So I could probably even, you can actually buy they're called worm towers, and they just have different layers to them. So you would feed your worms on the top layer, and then all the compost as they eat and poop, it all just goes down to the next layer, and then you just automatically harvest it from that second layer, and then you can just keep moving them. And what they do is that the worms, when they've finished eating, so even if you take the bottom rack off and put it on top and start feeding them up there, they just automatically move up because they go where the food is, because that's what they do is they eat. So then you can just keep harvesting the bottom layer. I'm not that fancy. Maybe one day, maybe I'll ask that for my birthday present.
So
I need a worm hotel.
Yeah. So one of the big draws to doing worm farming is composting and gardening and creating good, healthy soil.
Yeah. Well,
so it's a symbiotic relationship.
When you're growing a vegetable, and this is something that is becoming more and more of an issue in our day and age, is when you're growing a vegetable, where do all the vitamins and nutrients come from?
Right. The store.
Do they come from the seed? No.
No. Comes
If
from
you want an orange high in vitamin C, you need to make sure that the environment that you're growing that orange in is healthy. If you want a carrot with lots of beta carotene and high, vitamin C, I think it is. The healthier your soil is, the healthier your food is going to be. So there's a terminology called nutrient dense. And the amount of vitamin C in oranges now compared to 200 years ago is drastically different. simply because of farming practices. And it's really easy to throw a bunch of fertilizer on a soil. It's a lot of work to create healthy soil. So basically, if you kill your soil and all your healthy microorganisms, you're growing crops, but they may not be nutrient dense and they may not have the nutritional value that they could have if they were grown the way they were designed to grow. So there's so much about it. But it makes sense to me. Like, I'm not an environmentalist, but when it comes to soil, I'm an environmentalist. Well, and I don't think it's environmentalism. I think it's caring for what God gave us. And it's very easy to overlook that, especially because most of us are small scale, right? Yeah. It's like a small garden or just flowers. But you also think of what you're eating, where you're getting your food. So
yeah. You gotta steward the worms well,
right?
If you want good, healthy food. I like that. Yeah.
No, and I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense, which is, that's why we got the compost bin, was to, number one, throwing your garbage. Man, we've cut down on the amount of garbage we throw out.
Yeah.
And you go into the compost bin, and like that stuff seems to really work for the plants when you're growing.
Yeah.
Now we've just got this new one this year that we're trying, which hopefully will work even better. But they say it takes about 6 months to really get it going well.
Yeah. I don't have mine like really well. I finally emptied mine this year, but like I said, I'm pretty sure my compost outside, I wasn't running it properly.
No.
Now that I'm running it better, it's like, okay, well, let's give it lots of time over the summer. Let it heat up, do its thing, throw it in the garden. Over the winter, it's fine. I can keep putting stuff in it. It's just not going to break down. It's not going to compost because it doesn't have the heat. And so, but I can keep putting stuff in there, and then come spring, water her down, let her get hot, and then it's ready to put on my garden in the fall. And then it can sit on my garden in the fall, and it can slowly work back into the soil.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that we started this year. I did on my Instagram, but we've stopped tilling our garden. I grew up, you rotor-till every year. That's what you do. That's how you plant your garden, is you rotor-till it. And the more I read about when you till it and taking and turning the soil, you lose all your root bed. So you tear up all the root bed, and all your roots are where all your nutrients are stored, and it actually releases carbon. I don't know if you've watched Kiss the Earth or Kiss the Ground on Netflix. No. They showed a map of the amount of carbon released in April, May, when all the farmers do their plowing for the year. It skyrocketed the amount of carbon that was released when they tilled the soil. And you want that carbon in the ground, because that's part of the regenerative, or your process, right? Your nutrient process. You need carbon and phosphorus and nitrogen and all those things in there to work together. So when you till it, you release that carbon into the atmosphere. And so it's like, okay, we have a carbon problem. Let's stop tilling the ground.
Wow.
Anyway, it's completely countercultural. And I know I've looked at it because, I grew up in the country and farming community, and it's like, how are you going to plant your stuff if you don't till it up? Like, it doesn't even make sense to me. But there is a way.
Wow.
So, you're talking, and I'm the pastor in me is just, there's a sermon in there just about the good soil, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
The worms.
Soil has worms.
Oh, I got some sermons brewing here now.
Anyway,
this is interesting.
Fascinating. Yeah, because you think, it's just like a hobby. You just have some worms, but no, it's really tied to this cyclical nutrients in the earth and
the cycle of life. God gave us the worms and the insects and all the bugs and stuff to break it all down.
Well, and you look at most of our agriculture these days, or even our vegetable, growth and stuff like that. Everything's it's called monoculture, which means that you're only planting one type of plant, and you're harvesting one type of plant. Can you explain to me in nature where there is anywhere that only grows one type of plant?
Yeah.
No, nowhere in nature.
I can't even get one type of plant to grow on my lawn. Like it's
designed to work together and to grow different things in one area. Like you go out to the forest, you're going to find grasses, you're going to find flowers, you're going to find trees, you're going to find shrubs, you're going to find weeds, you're going to they all work together and grow together to help keep that balance in the environment. And that's where so many pests and diseases come from, because there's nothing there to balance it. It's like cats and mice, your mice population gets out of control. Well, you got to let the cats out, and if you don't let the cats out, then your mice population is going to grow, but then you need something to keep the cat population in control. Like God created such an interesting, just environment, and it doesn't just apply to like predator and prey. It's in the growth patterns of things too, which I don't know. It blows me away how complicated it is.
Yeah.
And how necessary too. So
that's really cool.
Wow. You're exciting all the environmental scientists right now if they're listening to us.
Right.
Which of course they are.
We get a lot of environmental scientists tune in every Thursday, don't we, Lance?
It's probably old hat to them. They probably already know how to do it all. But anyway, it is really interesting. And I think there's like I said, I always used to scoff at the environmentalists. And it's like, no, you know what? This is just taking care of what God's given us. Why should we completely destroy what we've been given, especially when there's so many simple ways to do it? So anyway, it starts with worms in my kitchen.
That's awesome.
My apple cores and carrot peels. Carrot peels are the best because they're like so thin. So you just throw them in there and anyway, they get munched up really fast.
And so in terms of pets people could own, worms truly are a low maintenance solution.
I forget about them for weeks at a time. They're fantastic. And then I could stand on the box and it's like, get off the box.
Yeah, I frequently forget about my dog and she takes it really hard. So, you know, it's just not the same.
Don't worry. The worms don't care.
That's funny.
So I'm just chilling, making soil.
Before we came on this morning, Lance had an epiphany. Not really, I guess a whole paradigm shift in his understanding of worms just before we came online, before you joined us.
Yeah. I'm still deconstructing my whole identity and worldview. So share with us what you learned, Lance, what you thought was true of worms, but something you learned. Well, so what I thought was true, what I thought I had learned or picked up over the years was worms rise to the surface when it rains because the soil gets clogged with water and they can't breathe. So they come to the surface to like look for air and then, end up on the sidewalk and fry in the sun or birds pick them up. But I just Googled it and learned that worms actually can like live underwater for days and they just migrate when it rains, not because they can't breathe, but they're just like, hey, sweet, let's go somewhere else.
I think maybe some of it is that idea of that they don't like the sun, like they don't like the heat because the heat dries them out.
Yeah. So
it probably when they come back up to the surface to see if there's anything to eat. And also the birds need food too.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So the rain says, hey, it's time to move, and they get moving, and God says, now's time for the birds to eat.
See, it's just the way God designed it.
Poor worms.
Do
you get any fishermen come looking for your worms?
No, but you know what? They probably make really good bait too. Yeah. I am not patient enough to fish. I can't sit. I can hardly sit and like drink a cup of coffee without doing something else. I can't sit and fish.
I remember going fishing with my grandfather, and he had a little worm tray, and it was like this little plastic container that you could open on either end, and it was full of soil. And he just popped one end open, and there was 3 or 4 worms, and you just pick one out and put it on your hook, and away
How
you
do
go.
you get a worm on a hook though? Like,
I don't know.
Doesn't it like spear it in half? Like those things are tiny.
So you can cut a worm in half and it lives, can't you?
Yeah, but I mean, like I always imagine like if you try to stick it on a hook, it would just like shear it in half, so it's not on the hook anymore. It's just cut in half.
Just wrap it around.
You
wrap it around. Tie it in a bow.
Wrap it around and then spear it on.
I don't know. You can tell I've really not fished either. There you go.
Yeah.
So if anyone's interested, Ashley is selling her worms, $500 a worm. Really good for composting.
Yeah, $100 per worm. You can start your own worm.
They're a specialty worm.
Yeah. Their names are Kevin. They answer to Kevin, so you'll have to keep that. But otherwise, they're yours for $100.
The price just went down. For you, my friend, a special deal.
So, it's 30 minutes in. I guess, do we have any final questions for Ashley about her worms? I think people are just riveted, listening, learning.
Listen,
woman, and why is she growing worms?
All I can say, this was an interesting conversation.
Very interesting.
I
if
thoroughly
you ever want to
enjoyed.
talk soil with me, I'm there.
I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. But if anybody watches after the fact, even and have questions about worms, to throw it up on our page, and I'm sure Ashley will see that, and you can even tag her in your question, and she'll see that and respond.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
And you to the experts too.
Yeah.
There's actually U of S does different classes, University of Saskatchewan. So they do lots of online classes, and a lot of them are free. So anyway, if you're interested in stuff like that, they've got lots of gardening stuff.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
My sister-in-law loves gardening. I'll have to forward that to her.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, guys.
Well, thanks for coming on with us and talking about worms and compost and all that fun stuff today, Ashley.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ashley.
Hey, see you later, everybody.
Bye. Awesome. So learned so much. That's so cool.
That was interesting.
I'm really motivated to get a compost bin now. Said no child ever, but
no.
For sure.
Yep. So Lance, we did notice something before we say goodbye here. I did notice a certain picture online of a certain pool in your backyard.
Oh yeah. No, that's all done now. Well, the saga continued a little, actually.
Oh, really?
So we got a pool. It's a big deal. We had to do all of our landscaping. So we dug a big hole. We trucked away the dirt. We brought in road crush. Was given advice on how to do that. We compacted that. So it's up pretty good. It's pretty level. It's off here and there, but like it's pretty level, and it's not sinking anymore. So it's good. Me and my kids actually swam in it the other day, so it's been good. But one of the things was we got we were given a heater for it. So it's just like a solar panel where all the tubes run through and warm up in the sun a little bit more. And so we were hooking that up, and we ran into this issue where after we got all hooked up, the pump was leaking like pretty steadily. We couldn't figure out how to fix it, but it just pooled water. And we're like, well, maybe it'll just like kind of quickly drain away, but no, it didn't. And then it was pooling on my neighbor's fence, and then she came and was like, yeah, so there's water there. I think your pool's leaking. And so then I had to go out again and fix it. But then the way I had to fix it, I had to move the pump in such a way that all the water from the pool was gushing out at me as I was trying to fix it. And then I'm freaking out more because then my backyard is flooding and my neighbor's fence. But then I fixed it, and now it's all good. So we're happy.
And the pump itself is not leaking anymore?
No, it's all good now.
Good.
So, yeah. So, yeah, just waiting for a nice day now.
Well, next week looks like the weather is supposed to get nice. So
Yeah, that's good.
I think we were going to have mozzie old windy. It's not mozzie. Today is not a mozzie day. It's just gray. But
Great day.
The wind was crazy yesterday.
Yeah, it was very crazy. Yeah. No, blew stuff all around my yard. I biked home in it, actually. I biked home with my bike trailer because I was like, I'll pick one up from school in the bike trailer and bike him home. That'll be fun. And then, yeah, it was windy to start the day, but then it was like windy and rainy by the time that came. So, yeah, I biked home with this kite of a bike trailer on the back.
You were like that lady in Wizard of Oz floating around in the bike in the tornado.
Yeah, I really had to pedal hard. But, yeah, but
cool.
Anyway, I drove today, so it's all good.
Nice.
All right, friends. Thanks for watching.
Hey, before we go, Father's Day.
Oh, yeah, Father's Day.
Father's Day is coming up. Mm-hmm. And we will be doing live here at CFA on Sunday a reprise of our dad joke battle from last year.
Mm-hmm. Not
just a reprise. It's Dad Joke Battle 2.
Mm-hmm. The Revenge.
Revenge of Steve.
Who's very invested in winning.
Yeah. Well, funny thing is I haven't yet reviewed my jokes, but I've been collecting them all year.
I should start preparing for them.
If you beat me, so help me.
I'll laugh very hard.
I'm going to lose my nerves.
So anyways, vote Lance for Dad Joke Battle 2 on Sunday.
Awesome.
And next Thursday, we have Pastor Glenn finally joining us online, which is very special because he's not on social media at all.
No.
So you want to know what he does for fun around his house or his random opinions on various topics. Now's your chance to find out. So tune in next Thursday for your coffee break. Take the day off work.
Come with a punt load of questions.
Yeah.
Do you know how much is a punt load?
A punt load?
Yeah.
No. How much?
That's what it is. It's a punt load. A punt is a type of boat.
Oh, I see. But
so it's a boatload of questions.
Come with a boatload. A boat or butt load. Either or. Anyways, we should probably be done.
Yeah. Who knows what you'll start saying if we don't
that's right.
say goodbye yet.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for you who are watching later. Hugs and kisses. Goodbye.
We'll
Bye.